For the last 12 months, we've been deep in this rabbit hole of trying to figure out how we can develop and refine a marketing product better customized from a price perspective and an outcome perspective. And those outcomes are conversions from phone calls and web form completions and things that actually matter, not just how many points your website has moved on Google each month for their keywords, right? Like relevant stuff. Now, it's taken us a while to get here, but man, has it been a hell of a journey and a great one. We now have this product which has been perfectly designed for trade businesses. It is priced well, it's not over the top expensive, and it delivers results, which is the main thing. It's about delivering results. If you're interested in that, if you're spending a lot of money at the moment on marketing that is not delivering an answer, you need to head across to tradiewebguys.com.au, fill in the contact form, reach out to us, and I'll run you through this program. It is amazing, and quite honestly, it's probably going to end up the entire direction this business is going, because the landscape of marketing as we know it has changed so much, and it's super important that you guys understand that and that you stay ahead of the curve. Tradiewebguys.com.au. Enjoy the podcast. For our businesses to become successful, as business owners, we need to get out of our own way. You're about to hear from the CEO of a company responsible for helping tradies and contractors with their home service businesses collectively generate over $1 billion worth of revenue. This guy knows what he's talking about. We cover in this episode topics like vision and mission, motivation and inspiration, how to serve your team as the leader, how to become self-aware, the art of optimization, always being better, improving, making improvements, and a bunch of other things. It's a great episode. It's jam-packed full of applicable things that you can go and apply to your business right now. I know you're going to love it. Enjoy. Good afternoon, Mike. Welcome to the Sideshed podcast.
It's great to be with you. Thanks for having me, Matt. I appreciate it.
All the way from New Jersey.
New Jersey, beautiful Garden State.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's what we are, the Garden State.
What's New York? The concrete state.
The Empire State.
The Empire State, of course it is. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, mate, thanks for joining us today. I know you're in the middle of a leadership seminar or coaching program or something like that, which sort of ties in pretty heavily to what we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah.
So thanks for squeezing me into the schedule. Apparently right behind that wall there is where all the action's happening.
Yeah, we got a stage back there, and we run a lot of events back there, so we have a lot of fun.
I have a question. Like in the background there, I'm looking at some, are they wrestling belts?
Yeah, so I'll rip one off the wall and bring it to you and give you a better look. So
this is obviously not very good for you guys listening in, but if you're watching this, what? That's great.
Yeah, so if you look at it, we go all the way from six figures all the way up to 100 million. And what we do is every year we give these away and award them to our clients on their growth.
That's awesome.
And so everybody attains a different belt level every year through their growth. And we, one thing that we're super proud of here at CEO Warrior is that we represent over our 8-year tenure. We've been in business for 8 years. That we represent over $1 billion in growth for our clients. So we give those things away. So we're super proud about those.
That's
amazing.
We
hang them on the wall.
Sure. So you guys have been running for how long now?
So it's 8. This will be our 8th year in business. Yep.
Because I have a bit of a background with you guys. I reckon going back to, I was trying to think of this morning while I was having a coffee. I'm going to go circa 2010 or something like that. We had Mike Aguilera
at Scott's place.
At Scott's place, yeah, that's right. To come out and do a coaching program for a week or something with a whole bunch of trade business owners in Australia.
Yeah.
Okay.
Around that area, right. We were.
Were you part of that?
So I was working at the home service company Mike owned. I was the director of sales at the time.
Gotcha.
And so I was there when we formulated the coaching group. Mike hadn't built out the coaching group entirely, but he was really helping. He was going around helping people and offering, insight into how he was doing great work over here in Jersey. And you guys happened to be part of his tour. I know he went over to.
We did some fire walking. We did all sorts of stuff with him. It was pretty crazy.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Love it.
It was good. Yeah. So anyway, when I got the intro to this, I was like, there you go. That's Mike's tied into that business. He's still part of the business, I gather.
So he is still part owner, but he has exited through private equity. So we had an
Yeah.
acquisition 2 years ago, and he's still a portionate owner, but
Yeah.
has stepped out of the day to day and allowed me to kind of take the mantle and run with it.
So you're the man.
I try to be, man. I try to be. It's big shoes to fill, that's for sure.
Oh, well, look, that's awesome. And, I love having guys on the program that have got, got the runs on the board. Like you look at, the background of your business and coming from Mike, who built and sold gold medal, and, guys that actually can talk the talk and walk the walk, and it's just awesome that you guys are getting such great results for your customers over there. And it's, truthfully, it's the reason the podcast exists. It's just a way for people to access information and, people and services and solutions to problems they have in trade businesses. Because as you know, like growing up as a plumber or a builder or electrician or whatever it might be, you don't get taught this shit.
Yeah.
It's like, you got to go figure it out yourself. So, So, I mean, guys, if you are over at, North America and you are looking for some, coaching business, like I know from personal experience, like these guys do a good job. I've been part of it in the early roots, so go check them out for sure. We'll have links to you guys as well, Mike, in the show notes and whatever. But anyway, we're here today because we're going to be talking about leadership, right?
Yeah. We're going to we'll dial into some commitments I think you need to have. We'll talk. I guess we could just kind of talk about everything. I mean, it's leadership week here at CEO Warriors, so I could be an open book. We could go any route we want to go, but I think commitment and what an owner and a critical manager should do in terms of commitments is a great place to start.
Well, I mean, it's probably a good time right now to throw that back out to you guys that are watching this or listening to this. So if there's anything that you do want to expand on, let us know. I'm sure I can tie Mike down for another episode or a couple just to sort of get a little bit more granular with whatever you want to hear. But yeah, as Mike said, today we're going to be talking about these 5 commitments you need to make as a leader to get out of your own way. And oh man, has that been like a sledgehammer to me the last couple of months? Just you just get so caught up in your own stuff sometimes. You just got to get out of the way,
Well, so sometimes you just got to get out of it to see how compromised you are by your position, right?
Oh, wow. Do you ever? Like that the value of having somebody be able to look into your business and go, that is busted as shit right there.
Yeah.
Like, because you don't see it. You're caught up in it like every day. Like it's the reason why it's so great having coaches, like they can kind of put the polarized lenses on and see through all the bullshit.
Yeah, I think sometimes our job is to be kind of when you're clinical at the view, you got to help them kind of understand the pitfalls that they're creating. First and foremost, I mean, I guess everything starts with the man in the mirror, right? So you got to kind of take a look at that and start there.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah.
So you guys typically work, I mean, obviously CEO Warrior, you work with home service business owners. Is that right? Like your whole thing is developing the owner to become a better CEO?
Well, when we first started out and we start back, let's go back to the very beginning. We were really hyper focused on the CEO, on the owner of the business, the person that's making all the decisions, the ultimate guy in the business. We've changed our tune there. Now, obviously, we work with the owners, we work with the critical management, but we take a whole look at the whole entire organization. And so we have 10 critical trainings. We train every aspect of the business, whether it's the call taker, the outbounder, the salesperson, the road warrior, we call them. And so we really work every aspect of your business, whether it's pricing or finance or marketing or, everything that you can think about in your business, we have an aspect of training towards that.
Okay. Yeah, cool. Because I suppose that's it's a big thing, right? Like the part of being a leader is developing leaders within your business. So you want to make sure that it's great developing yourself as a leader, but if you're not replacing yourself in areas, then like inevitably you'll end up just being the one doing everything all the time.
Yeah, I mean, today the big statement this morning that I told everybody, I says, if you're a firefighter, you'll always be the firefighter, right? And so if you've built and developed a business to where you can't remove yourself from it, you just have a job, you don't have a business.
Sure.
And that's the reality of it. I mean, like, look, you're doing a podcast where you're the personality and you have to be present for that. But when you're owning a tradie business, as you guys call it, on your neck of the woods, like if you're plumbing, heating, cooling, electric, whatever you're doing, garage doors, landscaping, whatever it is, if you have to be the end all be all for everything, that's not a business. The business isn't sustainable if you go away, if you take a vacation. So it's really important to to really understand that you are the bottleneck, you are the challenge, and you are the success. So you just got to kind of hone in on what that looks like.
So anyway, today we're talking about the 5 commitments you need to make as a leader to get out of your own way. Is this like a framework that you've defined as part of your coaching, or is this something that you sort of?
So it's not really a framework. I think it's really just it's portion of our leadership training. We talk about commitments, obviously, because if you're going to be a devoted leader to your people and serve them at a high level, you have to have commitments, right? There's a bunch of commitments that you could have. I think I narrowed it down to 5 just to make it simplistic. I think there's a multitude of
Sure.
disciplines you need to have as a leader. I don't think it ends with 5, but I think there's 5 critical ones that we can really kind of dive into and chew on today, and kind of get into those kind of things that you may have. I could give some offerings and we could just kind of talk about that stuff.
Sure. And what we are going to be talking about, like, what are some of the obstacles we're here to try and, I suppose, mitigate or overcome?
Well, I mean, I think for us, I mean, if we really want to overcome some of the pitfalls and challenges that guys have, we want to make sure that they can streamline their operations, right? So when you look at your business, you have to be profitable. You must be profitable. So to create levels of efficiency, to put yourself in a position to do the work that's needed to do the highest and best use of result, where do you get your greatest yield? We'll talk about, well, I think we could talk about that. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. I think most of your listeners, if they're guys like me that work with their hands to make money, you look back on all the time wasted, changing the water heater, going out and doing that task. Like, and you know why we default to that? Because it's so easy.
Sure.
We've been
We know
changing
it.
water heaters forever. We could do it in our sleep. And so when you become a business owner, getting out of the truck may be the most difficult thing to do. The second most difficult thing to do is recognize you're not a plumber anymore. You're a
Yeah.
business owner. And so when you throw the tool bag away or gift them to one of your employees, that's a pretty challenging day for most of us.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And it's also, I suppose, and we're probably going to get into this, but, like I found, and I've said it before on the show, like as a business owner, and truthfully, it doesn't really matter what business you're in. Like I used to run a plumbing business and now I run a digital agency and all this kind of stuff. Inevitably, as the owner of that business, your role will continually change, which means you're constantly being pushed out of your comfort zone because it's things you have to learn and, do better. So
Yeah,
I
no
guess
doubt.
that's what you sign up for, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think about it. Like, you think about your businesses that you've had, Matt, and wherever you've been and navigated in your life, just like me. Every level and layer of growth, I had to change and recreate my own identity and where I'm at today. Um,
Mhm.
looking back to the very beginning of CEO Warrior, I didn't think I'd be running the company as the position I am today. So there's a whole new definition of who I am, how I reinvent myself, what's my true identity today versus what it was 2, 3, 4 years ago. And so I think that's the challenge for most guys that are doing our work, is that we're so tactical, we're so good on the tools that we miss the opportunities to redefine who we are and be better for, all the people that work for us and our communities and how we support our clients.
And why don't we go there? Because I'm keen now to sort of dive a little bit more into that. It's probably not part of what this conversation was intended to be, but I'm interested on what that conversation looks like inwards when you're thinking, okay, well, I want to get to this. I want to raise the bar. I want to become this guy. I don't want to be running. I don't want to be the director of a plumbing company anymore. I want to be, the CEO, or I want to be, I want to be removed from operations, or I want to be, or I'm currently, the head of dispatch and I want to become the managing director or something like that.
Sure.
How do you reverse engineer that journey, and how do you,
Uh,
you know,
I have a really great system that I went through. I mean, I'll tell you, I was, just so you guys know, I'm an auto mechanic by trade. So that's where I cut my teeth, right? Turning wrenches, working on cars. I had the fortune to manage the fleet for Gold Medal Service.
Mhm.
Had life happens, went through a divorce, wife was my partner, father-in-law was my landlord. I sold that business and got an opportunity to go work for Mike and Rob. Started out there working in the retail division. We had a commitment with Costco. You guys know what Costco is. We were
Mhm.
selling Lennox product through them. And I was gifted, working with Mike A, and he was my leader for, gosh, it'll be 10 years, June 2nd, that I've known him and worked for him. And so now we're business partners here, which is just an amazing journey for me. But when I look back to being a lead generator and working with the retail division, Mike always gave me the scorecard for the next position. Every position I had, he gave me the next one. And on those scorecards that we have, it always had the skills and competencies. It always had the routines, the daily, weekly, monthlies. And he would be like, if you want to know what it takes to get to the next level, you have to master these skills and competencies. And so being able to have a leader in my world that could show me the ascension model, the journey where if you want to go, you must do this, you need to do this, or think about this. I always had somebody here since I've been with, this entity. I've always had somebody guiding me to what the next level looks like, what I need to become, how I need to evolve. Because without that, I would have never gotten to where I am.
It's, yeah, you know what, like you've said that. I don't know if you've ever crossed paths with the great 7-power contractor, Al Levy. That's what he's always said too. Like he's his whole thing is basically, well, when you're like that organizational structure and using it as a way that you can showcase, career progress, and whatever you can do to equip people, because it's the difference between them jumping ship for, an extra $5 an hour to a competitor and then understanding, well, this is the path I'm on within this company and where I can end up if I do the thing.
Well, like, look, and Al, I mean, obviously we've been through that, right? Like Mike and Rob had a great connection with Al back in the day, and we learned a lot from him. He's like obviously he's one of the
The
great
GOAT.
stalwart of the industry, right? Like one of the true badasses, if you think about it in that respect. But I mean, for us, I always was looking for more, right? And the problem is we have so many people in these companies that want more, want to do more. Think about, you said the dispatcher. Think about the dispatcher. Their job is to fulfill the revenue for the day and focus on that stuff. But how great are they going to be at their job if they just think there's a ceiling?
Mm.
And as business owners, what is our real true job? Our job is to present opportunity. And if we can present opportunity to people and we get the right people, we hire the right avatar of an employee and they can go out and secure the opportunity we allow them to have, man, the sky's the limit for everybody.
So, I mean, for you, was it a matter of like when Mike presented you those scorecards and saying, "Hey, well, this is the next stage"? Was it like you going, "Huh, okay, yeah, I wouldn't actually mind getting to that stage," or was it you going to Mike saying, "Hey, this is kind of where I'd like to be. This is what I'd like to, where I think my strength is"? Because I found this within my own company. Like very often, some team members aren't necessarily fitted for the next position above them. Like they might be fitted for somewhere else, or
Right.
like you got to be able to move people around.
Yeah, I mean, so for me, I think that was just Mike's process, right? You bring somebody in, you hire them for a position. Mike always had the belief and philosophy, and I've kind of inherited it, is that if I hire you for one position and in a year or two you're doing the same position, I've probably failed you. There's probably some kind of growth mechanism I haven't put in place. I haven't supported you and all that. So, but I think everything falls back in that with skills and competencies, just like you said. There's always going to be somebody who wants a position they're not ready for.
Sure.
Right. I just because you've got tenure, just because you've worked at a place for 8, 5, 10 years, whatever it may be, it doesn't mean you qualify for that next position. And
Sure.
and we see it all too often in the trades that these managers and owners, they default to easy. They know Billy, so they just give Billy the opportunity because it's easy to give him the keys and say, you have install now today.
And they feel obligated.
Yeah, and then they go, okay, cool. I've been with you forever. I'm a warrior. I'm going to roll with what the boss wants, and then they get promoted to ineptitude, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And so, if you don't hone in on the skills and competencies that the next position has, and you don't learn and acquire them, then you're not privileged for the ability to have that next job. So for me, when I went to Mike, I mean, obviously I wanted as much as I could possibly have, but for me, it was a different transition. I came from a different industry, the automotive industry, to the home service industry. It's not entirely different, but when you're going into people's homes, it's incredibly different. But for me, it was always looking for, what's the next level? How can I better myself? How can I make more money? I mean, I have a bunch of kids at home I got to take care of. So how do I support them right along the way? And so, being able to support my family was always important, and all I was ever looking for was opportunity.
Sure. Okay, well, let's jump in. Like, I'm really keen to hear what these 5 commitments are.
Yeah, cool.
And I'm guessing we could end up down a rabbit warren here, but either way, whatever. Let's just get it rolling and see where we end up.
We'll probably hit some rabbit holes for sure. So let's talk about the very first one, which I think is the most important. I'll tell a little story that'll bring some impact to the audience. Vision. You have to have a vision. You got to know where you're going, and you got to be able to tell people why why we're going and where we're going to and how we're going to get there. I think the vision is the most important thing. When I took the job at Gold Medal Service, Rob Zadati and Mike Aguilera, the two owners of Gold Medal. Rob Zadati was a friend of mine. We participated in a golf league together. We became friends over the years. I went through a divorce. He offered me the position, and he's like, I can't hire you. You got to talk to my boss because we're friends, and you got to be interviewed. You got to be interviewed by Mike. So you got to meet him. He'll be your boss, not me, which makes all kinds of sense, right? Mm-hmm. And so I got invited to the Gold Medal facility. I walked through the door. Linda States, I'll never forget the day. Linda States greeted me at the door by name. I'd never met her before, didn't know her name, didn't even know what she looked like till I walked through that door. She knew exactly who I was. And she says, Mike, welcome to Gold Medal. Have a seat. Can I get you water, coffee, tea, any of that stuff? Really just a beautiful soul, really accommodating and hospitable. She sat me at this table, and I didn't realize how much of a process that was until I look back on it, right?
Sure.
So I sat at this table waiting for Mike to be ready, and it was a controlled amount of time. It was probably about 7 minutes if I go back and look at it. But at that table on the wall was the painted vision for the company. And so I read the vision. It was all written out. It's on a plaque. It's really detailed. How many customers we're going to serve, what we're going to do in revenue, how many employees we're going to have. We're going to serve this geography of New Jersey. We're going to do these trade lines. We're going to have this many trucks. Everything was brilliant. It was a picture that I looked at and I was like, before I ever walked into the interview room, I wanted the job.
Sure.
I don't know why, because I thought I was just there to help them with a retail position. But I wanted the job. I wanted to know what it was like to work for somebody so detailed who knew exactly where they were going. And the beauty of it is it told me they were going to do 40 million by this time, and everything was written out. So when I went into the interview with Mike, I sat down, he went through the vision with me. He really kind of asked me questions about who I was, really personal questions, which I enjoyed, which I don't know necessarily in today's world. It's ultimately done a lot because, obviously we're hiring for culture first. We could trade in a lot of things. But the interview was really, it was a monumental thing for me because I'd read the vision. The interview went really well. Mike had on his hand from a Sharpie marker, the number 40 written on his hand. And I asked him, I said, Mike, at the very end of the interview, I says, just help me understand why you wrote 40 on your hand. What's the deal with that? He goes, didn't you read the painted vision, man? That's
40 mil.
He's like, dude, that's where we're going. Don't you want to be part of that? And that was it for me. It was magnetizing, and it really put me in a position to understand, man, don't I want to work for somebody who knows exactly where they're going?
And so let's I mean, it's an amazing story, and there's probably not a single person listening or watching this that could relate to ever having an experience like that, which there's probably something in that. Yeah. But I want to let's jump into vision, because we've done some episodes before in the on vision, mission, values, and all that kind of stuff. And I think there's such a difference between the director sitting down, or the creating this vision, and then having something that's actually part of the culture and something that's like a living and breathing thing, as opposed to something that lives in a Google Doc and no one looks at, Sure. So I'd love to hear what that process actually looks like. Like, how do you, and today, when you're teaching this, how do you help people define what this vision looks like? How do you the issue I think that a lot of people have with doing all this stuff is the strategy to get there. Otherwise it's essentially a wish, right? Sure. And so maybe I'm jumping the gun here. This might be something that we're going to dive into, but I'd really love to hear, what does that process look like?
Yeah, so we actually we have an event called our Service Business Live events, and we have people actually build their painted visions there. So we walk them through how to build and develop the vision. And you're right, that's the easy part. I could tell you that I'm going to be 10 million in 4 years if I'm $1 million company, but what's going to get me there? How am I going to acquire the trucks? What building am I going to be in? What kind of insurance am I going to be able to afford? How am I going to hire all the people I'm going to need to get there? How am I going to get a $20 million mindset if I've got $1 million business? There's journey I have to go on. I have to self-improve. I have to self-reflect. I have to transform who I am, right? So building the painted vision is the one thing. The first thing foremost is you got to put it down on paper, because if you can't visualize it, you can't attain it. So the painted vision is brilliant. And then you have to put it on the walls. You have to let people know it. Now, it's not okay just to put it in a frame and never talk about it. It has to be part of every meeting. There has to be a transition of where we're going, how we've gotten closer to it. And then everything is built off of a plan, right? So for you, what is that plan? And it's an annual plan. It's budgeted plan. How are we doing the growth? And I believe your painted vision should be for 5 years out. And if you paint a 5-year vision out and you get to it a lot sooner, you just recreate your vision. Mm-hmm. Now, if you don't get it and you're off track in the second or third year, you could redo the vision based on your pace and the work that you're putting out. But you have to but for me, and it's like core values too, right? We talk about core values, we talk about painted vision, we talk about mission statements, brand promises, all that stuff. It's not okay just to put it on the wall. You got to have it in your heart and soul. So when you're communicating, I mean, we teach our clients, take your painted vision and go to your vendors with it. Show them where your vision lies. How are we growing? What is our expectation? How can you help me get there? You got to surround yourself with people that are invested in the vision, because you've got the leadership skills and the ability to communicate your vision on all kinds of levels. And so I think that's one thing that leadership, most guys, where they fail in leadership is their ability to communicate to the people the right way, because everybody needs to be communicated to differently. And so having the vision, being able to communicate the vision, and then keeping track of it, keeping score, and celebrating the monumental aspects of it are the most important things. And so at Gold Medal, how did we kind of secure that growth and how did we celebrate it? Every month we would talk about how much closer we are to the vision. Like if we said we were going to have 200, if we said we were going to have 150 vehicles and our fleet was up to 130, we would talk about the eight trucks we acquired and the 8 more employees that we acquired. We're that much closer to our vision. Hey, we just moved into Millbourne, New Jersey, another town that we're taking over. It's another aspect of our vision we're gaining. We went last year, we did 26 million. This year we did 30 million. We're getting that much closer to our 40, and we're showing the growth, and we're talking about it, not only in all company meetings, but in departmental meetings and the aspects and the interest. You know, when you have an outbound department that delivers $1 million in memberships a year, and the memberships are delivering 40% of your revenue or 50% of your revenue, what's the impact towards your vision that the outbound department's delivering? So you got to let them know their participation in the vision so that they can live and breathe it every day. And that goes for permit clerks and people answering the phone and admin assistants and accountants. Everybody needs to know the vision, and they need to know their part in it.
If I'm jumping the gun here, let me know. But in letting people know their part of the vision, what does that process look like? Because we like to run the scorecard system, which is like an outcome based, deliverables for individuals. Say, well, this is what your outcomes are, and these are the reasons why it's adding to this bigger picture kind of thing. Yep. Like, how do you guys define that within the trades?
Yeah, I think that's a really great, absolute necessary thing to do. Talk about KPIs, their deliverables, and how they're accentuating the result that they've been hired for, right? And everybody has a result. Now, we could think about athletes, right? We could talk about a baseball player. We could say, oh my gosh, Aaron Judge for the Yankees.
I knew you were going to say. I just knew you were going to go there.
All right, let's go deeper. So I'm a Yankee hater.
Of course. Oh, you're a Yankee hater.
I'm a Yankee hater. I said it out loud.
I'm
born and raised in Baltimore. I'm a Baltimore Oriole fan.
So, wow, cool.
So think about Aaron Judge, and this is going to get salty on him, so be happy.
I'm a Blue Jay fan, so I'm all for it.
Well, there you go. And so Aaron Judge has an amazing season last year, yeah?
Yeah.
He did all the things he needed to do from a KPI perspective, yes? Mm-hmm. Yeah, but did he hit the vision of the year? What'd they do in the playoffs? They didn't do anything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
correct. And so the conversation that is needed to be had is we fell short of of what we wanted, because his individual accomplishments, while they're really important, the aspects of what they bring to the team are incredibly important, not only to him, but to the team, to the fans, to the sustainability of the product. But ultimately, it's not getting him closer to the vision, him having a standout year. So the conversation is collectively, how do we work together to get closer to it? So in independent conversations, you could certainly talk about the vision, and you should. But I think when you get together in groups, when you get together in departmental conversations or all company meetings, somebody has to detail the vision and how well we're proceeding through the pace of it. And I think that's a managed and a really important aspect, because if you want to grow your business to be 40 million bucks, just throwing shit on the wall and having that number up there doesn't do anything. You have to show what we're doing, how we're accomplishing it, and celebrate every milestone in there, because it's not about individual KPIs. Individual KPIs are great, but when we look at the collective approach to the company, that's the success, and that's really the meaningful success towards the vision.
It's so good that you've said that, because this is something that I try to communicate to the team. Well, we run the scorecard system, and then when we do the quarterly reviews, you go, great, you're on track here, but your department's down 20%. Or the business hasn't made any profit this month or the last 2 months because of whatever. So yes, good, you're doing your job, but the rest of the team isn't. So, like, people need to understand their place in the bigger picture as well as their place individually.
And if you're the standout and you're the guy, you're the plumber who's amazing, and you're converting well, and you're selling memberships, and you're selling more items per transaction, you're getting people to say yes. Don't you have a responsibility to help the rest of the team understand what you're doing really well? You should take some responsibility in that.
Yeah. And it's a funny dynamic, isn't it? Because for so long, people like see that as their, like, and I suppose this is a leadership conversation, and it's about helping people understand, well, no, keeping this intel to yourself is not helping you in any way whatsoever. Like, no. if we need to, and that whole conversation around the bigger picture and like reverse engineering what that actually looks like for the organization or your department or your whatever it is, your team, like, the role essentially then becomes, well, yes, you need to hit these KPI individually, but like, you need to help your team do it, and they're not going to do that unless you start teaching them.
Yeah, and then play a part when you do have a departmental meeting and you're doing role play, or you're talking about aspects of how we are successful. You got to offer. You don't sit in the corner and just listen to everybody talk. You got to be part of the journey. You got to participate with your teammates, and you got to give the insight that, like, you could be a poor converter but an amazing guy in terms of selling memberships. So you could be the shittiest converter on the team. I want to hear how you're selling memberships. You could tell the best converter on the team how to sell memberships because you're amazing at it. And he could teach you how to offer better solutions and options to the clients. And so as a leader, as a department manager, service manager, ops manager, critical, whatever it might be, your responsibility is have everybody understand the totality of the company's journey, not just one individual's KPIs.
So part one, come up with the vision. What's the difference between a vision and a mission statement?
Well, I think a mission statement, there's not much difference, except a vision for me is much more detailed. Like, I can have a mission statement that talks about me trying to end the suffering of all the business owners in the trades, really dialing into them, avoiding the pitfalls that I've hit every rung of the ladder on the way down as I ran through the trades, and being able to give them insight through my expertise and experience. I could run through the mission statement of that. But when it comes to a painted vision, you got to get really granular. You got to talk about, really when it's exactly what it is. Paint the picture, make it visual. How many trucks are you going to have? How many employees are you going to have? What towns are you going to serve? What communities are you going to serve? If you're going to be charitable, and the one thing I know about trades guys is they're incredibly charitable. What charities are you going to take care of? How are you going to, what trades are you, if you're going to be just a plumber, are you going to add HVAC to that? Are you going to add electrical to that? Are you going to do multi-trade, singular trade? Just be really granular, because when your people can see it, they can produce it. Mm-hmm. And that's really what the big difference is for me. It's really a snapshot in a picture, and not this empirical statement with really great language behind it.
Because I heard, and I'm paraphrasing here, and I'm probably going to bugger it up, but one of the guests on the show, Barry, he's been on a couple of times. He used to have a coaching business which he sold, but he always said the vision is the big picture, the mission is the route you're going to take to get to the vision. Sure. And then your values are the boundaries that you operate within in order to carry out your mission to get to your vision. And I was like, yes. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, our mission at Gold Medal Service, and I'll go back to the service company, our mission was to provide safety and comfort in the home and make people experience a lifestyle they couldn't expect. So that was our mission statement. Our painted vision was taking us to 40 million at this time frame, serving this many communities with this many employees, and having these 3 charities that we were really charitable to, and all the things along. What did our building look like? Where were, all that geography we were going to serve. Super detailed.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, think about your supplier. If you walk into your supplier who supplies you product, and you're a $10 million business, and you hand them a painted vision that says 20, who's better served to help you get there? And so if he sees it and can believe it with you, man, who's a greater asset to have on your team than him?
And is that literally what happens? Like you guys would take that vision to your suppliers and say, hey, I just want to run this past you?
Yeah, at Gold Medal, here's the great thing. When you get incredible vendors and you start calling them partners and not calling them people that supply you stuff, and you act like they are a partner in your business, I'll tell the story. I go back in Gold Medal, and I was a sales manager. I wasn't the director of sales yet. I had just become sales manager, and I was probably a year and a half in the business. I walk in and I see all these people in the boardroom up front, and I hadn't seen that before. And it's probably because I was always out of the business in the house selling HVAC equipment. And so I come in one day and I go to Rob and said, hey, who are all those people in the boardroom? I was going to use it for a couple one-on-ones. And he goes, oh, that's the vendors. They'll be out of there. They're just, they're building a plan for us for next month. Now, there wasn't anybody in our company in the room with them, and they're building a plan for us for next month.
Oh, really? There was no one in there?
So we have our digital marketing guy, our PR person, our print ad guy. We have all these people, our supplier. We used Home Depot Pro and Barnett at the time. They're all in the room building a plan for us. And so think about what the painted vision's power is. Just think about that. And so for me, that was like a whole profound approach to business. Like, wow, I could get these people are willing to fight for us that hard. It blew my mind. And so I recognize the power of a vision, what it can do, and where you're going is the singular most important thing in your business today.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so in relation to the, like the way you communicate that to your team, is it done through like regular training? Is it done through toolbox talks? Is it how do you make it current, recent, relevant?
Yeah, regular training, everyday reach out, whether you're using a Slack channel, whether you're using Teamworks, everything is predicated on our milestones. And everybody knows the milestones. We've laid them out there. So if you're going to 40 million, when you hit 30, that's an incredible milestone. When you're looking at serving 125,000 clients and you hit 100,000, that's an incredible milestone. So you celebrate it, and everybody gets to participate in the journey and the celebration of, hey, we did great work.
I have a question around numbers, right? So, in that situation where you've got like this vision, the company is to hit this, right?
Yep.
How do you present that to your team members in a way that doesn't create some sort of animosity?
Yeah, see, I always love so I have a lot of clients that come down that road with me, and they say, well, if I share that with my people, they're going to think I'm making millions. Right. And there's a reality to that. Like you sell a job for $25,000. Some of your employees may be ignorant enough to think you're keeping 20,000 of that. Right. And so the reality is that's not the truth. Right. That's why transparency to number is the most important thing. So when we run through our painted vision, we've already put our people through one truck exercises. They already know our sold hour, sold day principles, how we came up with the numbers. You need your people to be incredibly confident in why you charge the prices, how you came up with the pricing, because if they have confidence in the pricing, they're going to be much more clear in offering it to clients. They're not going to live in their pocket like a lot of trades guys love to do, right? They use their philosophies and their mindset to sell people things. And it's just the wrong thing to do. It's almost a prejudice that we have inherently from, our subconscious, because maybe we grew up in a house where our father never bought anything. So we get into a home and we're like, well, we do have these two things, we're all nervous about it. So getting your team really dialed into how you came up with the numbers, what does it cost to run the truck? What's it cost to have you? But here's the reality. If you're not taking care of your customers, and when you have success, they don't have success, that's what they're going to believe anyway. So you have to build this Performance pay is really, really important in today's world. You have to have guys based on performance pay. Transparency to the numbers is incredibly important. Like I don't need to share below the line stuff with my people on my P&L, but I want them to see everything above the line, everything that impacts the sale, everything that they've done to produce a margin, because they're doing that work, not me.
So are you sort of touching here on lag versus lead metrics and that kind of stuff?
Of course. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because I think that's like so many people get caught up in like the dollar value or the turnover, and they don't understand it's a lag metric. That's the result of a number of things that have to happen from an actionable perspective in order to achieve that number.
And you got to get them to physically do the engineering of it. And if you could run them through an exercise where they do the engineering and you use their philosophy and you show them where they're off track or on track, man, there's real synergy between you and your employee, and they understand where we're going. And I mean, like, look, plumbers today, I mean, I don't know about where you guys are, but $150,000 plumbing salary is pretty common over here.
Mm-hmm.
And so, a lot of people would die to have that kind of salary in the regular world. And so the opportunity, you're not talking about guys that shouldn't be able to see the engineering of the numbers and how we get there. We're talking about guys that are producing incredible amounts of revenue and should be able to see how we're getting there and what we're doing with that money, whether we're reinvesting it in the company, whether whatever we're doing, they should play a part in that.
Yeah, sure.
And cool. I think, and that's to answer your question. Obviously, that's a long drive to the answer of that question. But to answer your question, transparency in number comes on a multitude of layers, and I think that's just one of them. And getting really granular on all the way down to what a one truck would do and how your expectation should be of how it delivers to the company.
So I'm just going to throw it out there. If you're willing to do an episode on that and how we can design that, yeah. I think the listeners and the viewers out there would really benefit from that, because practically, I think that's something that most businesses struggle with. I'm talking about from the finance aspect, like reverse engineering the numbers, not understanding the numbers practically, and then I'm talking as well like with how you communicate that, the transparency element in being able to say, well, this is our goal and this is what you need to achieve to hit it, and why is that relevant? Like what your role in this bigger picture plays, so that people understand, well, the money's just not going straight into the owner's bank account, like there's bigger things happening here.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, if there's enough demand, I'll come on and we'll run through a one truck exercise that we would deliver for our clients, and get people to really see what it would take to take your tradie, put him on a chair, and have him ask him a bunch of questions, take all the answers he gives you, and develop a sold hour.
Sure. All right.
What do you think of that? And how's that going to deliver what you're trying to earn and make today?
Yeah, cool. All right. Well, I'll frame that up and I'll get it out there. And if enough of you guys want to hear about it, then we'll do it.
Yeah, and I think it's a great tool and a great asset to really kind of get people dialed in on, understanding that there is incredible. Like, look, we're talking about half of our owners not even being able to be businessmen because they're so tactical in their job. What do you think your employees are like?
Yeah, correct.
I mean, come on, they're only cut from the same cloth that you're cut from.
So if you guys want to hear more about that, I'm just going to say it right now, although we'll put something in the show notes, but a lot of you guys don't even go to the show notes. So you're going to reach out to us and let us know if you want Mike to dive into this. He just said he'll do it. So hit us up in the Facebook group, head across to the site shed, join the group if you're not already part of it, and post a comment when you see this come through, or message me privately, whatever you want to do on Facebook. But you're going to let me know. Otherwise, it ain't happening.
Yeah, we'd love to do that. That'd be great.
All right, Mike, let's move on.
Yeah, so let's go right into the next one. Inspire and motivate. You have to be inspirational. You got to motivate people. You got to be really skilled at motivating too. Because if you're not skilled at it, when we talk about, now look, motivation's temporary in its own right. It's not transformative, right? It's only a temporary thing. But you have to be a leader that transforms, that inspires and motivates daily. People need inspiration every single day. And so if you're coming to the table as, let's just say, like your personality trait is of like a high C, if you think about the DISC assessment, I mean, you're not going to bring the energy that your people need to be inspired and motivated every day. Is that fair?
Sure.
Is that fair? So you better hire somebody who can inspire and motivate outside of the ability you have to do it. And so that needs to take place. You need to tap in, because here's the reality for a lot of us as leaders. All of our employees are mechanisms of emotion. Is that fair?
Mm.
Everybody has a layer of emotion they bring to their day. You have to be able to tap into those emotional triggers to get your people to be the best possible version of themselves. And if they are, what's it going to mean for them and their family? What's it going to mean for our clients that they meet on a day-to-day basis? And ultimately, what would it mean for the sustainability and the profitability of our company?
Mm.
And so motivation and inspiration are two things that absolutely have to take place, but you got to be skilled at it. You got to recognize when to have greater conversations. You got to know what people's, you got to know what people's whys are. If you don't know the people that work for you, what inspires them to earn money, then you're probably going to struggle there. So you got to go and uncover that. Everything starts with the why. You got to dive into that and really be present in what that means for them. And if you're a critical manager, it's probably more important for you to be detailed into those things.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and I know one of our, good friend of mine is a leadership consultant. He always says it's very hard to externally motivate people. Like, it's got to come from within. You can't motivate someone. They've got to motivate themselves,
Yeah,
Um,
but I think there are moments of inspiration, and I do believe that there
sure.
is, like, people can be temporarily motivated for a day. Like, look, I'm a firm believer in transformation. You need a shift to create a new you every day. There's awakenings and evolution that take place that create this deliberate reality cycle. I'm a firm believer in manifestation and creating your own future. And so I think in those respects, if you're motivating and inspiring people on a day-to-day basis, it puts yourself in a culture of, just being magnetized to it and being I desire to be there because, man, there's just this energy every day that I just want to be part of. And I think,
Mhm.
when you can bring energy to something, you can improve it exponentially.
Yeah.
And it's all about the emotional triggers because everybody's got them. If they say they don't, they're a liar. I know emotional intelligence is really, really important for managers, and understanding how your people are acting and working and rolling through and what they need in terms of conversation, how they need to be communicated to, what's that level of leverage that you could create momentum off of is really, really important.
Cool. What's number 3?
Number three is service, having a level of service. You have to have a commitment to serve your team. There wasn't a moment in time when I was working for Mike A and Rob that I didn't believe they weren't fighting for my livelihood. Really recognized that they were serving me at a highest level. What do I mean by that? Having the support that I needed, having the ability, having the chain of command, the communication levels that I needed, having the tools and the structure that I needed to do my job, having, just literally, we send guys out and I know on call is a hot button, so we won't go down that rabbit hole, right? Right. So we'll avoid the on call bullshit conversation. But what we'll talk about is, when a guy goes on call, why they hate it is because there's nobody there helping them. They get thrown out in the middle of the night. They leave their families, and everybody else is sleeping. Nobody else is up to ask him if he's okay. Nobody calls him to see how he's doing. Nobody calls him to see if he needs help or assistance. And people need a level of service. And so, to be a true leader, you have to create all these levels of service. Doesn't mean you got to be that end all be all guy doing every bit of that, but you have to build a framework and an organizational chart that can support every lever on it. And I think having a level of service to your people creates this level of intrigue in your business that people that normally may not have looked at your company as an opportunity will, because they recognize your level of service to them. And it's not
Hmm.
just about having pizza parties. It's not just about having like 3-day weekends when necessary. It's about really truly presenting them with opportunity and the support to go out there and change their lifestyle.
Yeah, I saw a like a visual representation the other day. I think it was on, I don't know, LinkedIn or something, with like the two paradigms of leadership. The one with the people standing around and the guy sitting up on the podium with a whip, and
Yeah.
then the other one with the guy with the whip pulling, like at the front of the sled, pushing, like pulling,
Sure.
leading the way and having his team follow. And I was like,
Yeah,
yeah,
and
it's true.
I think like, look, I mean, when people recognize that you're not going to put them in a position you wouldn't put yourself in, that goes a long way. And if you're willing to roll up your sleeves and do the work with them, and I think it's a respect level, but a respect level comes from your actionable work and your hustle and your hard work and your determination, not just for the daily practice of your job, but supporting theirs at a high level.
Yeah, no, definitely makes sense. What's number 4?
Next one is self awareness. knowing what your intentions are. So like, look, we talked about vision. So every day we know where we're heading, where we're going. We've already built that out. We've painted that picture. We're inspiring and motivating. We're creating a level of service at every layer of our business. Now it's really important for us to know, are we acting under the values that we want to act under? Does the company act like I want to act to my community? When we do things, are they done with intention? Is there a desired outcome we're looking for? Are we creating this deliberate reality in everything we do? I think, what would keep you from being a great leader? If you were a leader and you could think about the things that hold you back from that, and you could literally list them and say, well, I'm not really good at communicating. I'm the last one in every day and I'm the first one out. That's probably not the best solution if you want to improve your leadership. Maybe talking about, I never support the guys. I don't answer the phone calls. I push everybody off. I'm not quick to action things and all this. What are the things that create you as a leader to be amazing? And if you know those qualities, let's just say some of those qualities you miss out on, you've got to build and develop all of those, or find people in your organization that can do them because you don't have the ability to do that. So if you're self-aware enough, like for me, I can't do spreadsheets, man. I could fumble through it and it would take me an hour to build a spreadsheet, but I could do it. So I got people on my team that I hire who are amazing at it, because I don't want, the last thing I want to do is build a spreadsheet. I'd rather punch myself in the face over and over than do that. And so, and I know that's like a little tiny thing, but think about the things that maybe you're not great at. Hire somebody who's great at that, so you could create that level of leadership where your void is there. So being self-aware is really, really important. And then recognizing it's not all about self-awareness, it's about improvements. What improvement mechanisms and actions are you putting in place where you find your deficits? Your personal deficits can create real true bottlenecks in your business. Find the people that will fill those gaps and make everything streamlined.
So is it kind of like a case of playing to your powers?
Of course, 100%. You have to put yourself in the highest and best use all the time. What is going to move the needle at the highest level? Because that's what your job is as the leader, as the CEO, as the president of the company, whatever you're calling yourself, the grand poobah, whatever you want to call yourself. Your job is to be positioning yourself at the highest and best use. It doesn't mean you can't come down and play in everybody else's playground every once in a while, but where you have true deficits and if you were to participate, it would create a problem in the company, you should really go out and find somebody that could fill that gap at a high level.
Mm. Yeah, it's one of the reasons why we like doing the org chart, I suppose, so much, because it really helps you identify where, what some of those roles and what some of those responsibilities within those roles look like that you or other team members shouldn't be doing. And it's not their strength. They're just doing it because it needs to be done. But that's the next thing you could potentially replace in their life to make them do their core job better, and, so on and so forth.
Well, I think that's why an org chart with a chart of accountability aligned with that, right? That talks about all like maybe the three critical components of that job, and it maps that out. So then you can really go, man, I never want to play in that. I mean, like, look, think about doing mules work all day long. Like, if you're the owner of a business and you're out cutting the front grass of the building, that's asinine. Like, you shouldn't be doing that. There's a better position for you to wait. If you're going to spend an hour of your time, it better have a return, not on the investment of time, but also on your life. What are you doing it for? And so that's really, really important to be self-aware of where your deficits are, how can I improve, what are the things that are tarnishing my leadership, and how do I find improvements to that? Maybe you got to go out and get some training to develop a better you or a better identity for your people, or hire people to fill those gaps.
I mean, I would argue that there's never a situation where you can't improve on.
Everything is another layer of mastery, man. You get to one pinnacle, it's just another mountain to climb.
Exactly right. It's not like one and done. Like, there's always evolution.
Yeah, absolutely. Every time you witness either a win or a failure, you're learning, man, and you can absorb that and create a whole new you.
Mm-hmm. All right, up to 5.
Yeah, so this one's all about optimization. This is about challenging the processes that you have in place. For me, it's about you have to be a seeker of optimization. What do I mean by that? In
What's what
today's
you
world,
spoke about, right? Like there's always a way to improve.
yeah, well, like in today's world, technology is incredible. It's going to be so fast, man. A couple more years, things are going to move so quickly. We're not even going to understand some of the stuff we did 2, 3, 4 years ago. We're going to be like, "Are you kidding me? We did that? That's insane." Now, today, you've got to be able to take, it's crazy, right? When you look at some of the tasks that I've done over the years, and I managed an install division with 15 install crews that ran out every day. Not having a garbage can on their truck cost us hours and hours and hours of efficiency because guys are in the basement working on the install. They're just they're clipping wire ties, throwing them on the ground, bags for stuff's going on the ground, boxes are getting ripped on the ground. And we gave everybody a garbage can. We cut 10 hours off of our efficiency for the week. What does 10 hours mean to a company? Just by giving them a garbage can. So as a leader, you have to be the seeker of that optimization. And you have to go and look, like, what is the best thing to do during a shoulder month? Fight for more leads so you don't have a shoulder month, right? But as a leader, you got to go back and look at all the processes and go, is this antiquated? Does it need improvement? How can I improve it? Does that improvement create another problem? What's that problem? Is that a good problem, a bad problem? So you just have to be, because you have to be, obviously you got to have innovation, right? You got to know what's coming and improve your business that way. You have to be really, really good at change management. You have to be really good at change management, no matter what kind of process you want to use. You have to be willing to create change management in your business. And then you have to have a focus on scalability. And
And
so
when you say change management, are you talking about from the perspective of like team members and being able to make like fast decisions in terms of?
not necessarily. I mean, obviously that's a portion of it. But I think when you look at being able to change, right, you look at how we do it. The worst thing I always hear, well, I don't know. That's how we've always done it. I want to
Right.
scream every time I hear that, right? I want to pound my head against the wall because I lived in that pain 15 years ago in my auto shop. I used to just do it because that's how we did it. And we used to tell ourselves that like it was a badge of honor. And all we used to do was go through the same suffering over and over and over again. And the problem is everybody's got fear of change. So you got to be able to manage that. You got to recognize why they have a fear of change because they feel like they're going to lose something. How we've always done it, if you're going to make me do it this way, I'm going to miss out on what we've always experienced and how we've always had it, rather than looking at the opportunities that it's going to provide through the optimization. And so for us, we have strategic optimization tools here at CEO Warrior that we talk about, and it's really granularly looking at every process, looking at the impact of that process, and how do we prioritize the optimization for result. And that's really what it comes down to taking a look at every process we have built out. And Al Levy said this, which I think is great. And I was on another podcast where the podcaster told me, and he's like, Al Levy told me once we get all these processes in, everything's going to be kind of boring. And I love that. Like hearing that's really great. So if you could take those processes and get them to a position where the day's vanilla, everything's pretty easy. Yeah. And so if we could do that, that's great. But every single growth spurt has a new level to it, just like we just talked about. So what's the optimization today? What's the optimization next month, next quarter, next year? Are we evaluating it for improvement? And being the guy that creates optimization and efficiency and effective approach to growth and your scalability in your business is really, really important. I think overall as a leader, being strategic in everything you do every day is really the aspect that we're talking about there.
And so typically that's going to come stemming from reverse engineering that vision into bite-sized chunks and into processes and into change management and just whatever needs to be done in order to make those steps actionable from a progress perspective.
And remember, implementation's everything, because we could sit here and
course.
talk about all these great things we're going to do, but if we never put them into place, what's going to happen? No change happens, no improvement happens. And quite frankly, it's funny because we have some clients that are like, oh, I did the same thing last year that I did the year before. And I'm like, yeah, but if you did the same revenue, you lost money.
Right.
Like if you didn't grow, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but over here in the States, inflation's real. And so
Yeah, sure.
eggs are freaking $8 a dozen for eggs. Like it's like insane. So shouldn't everything have grown? Even if you did the same work, you should make more money. And so the reality is you can't be complacent with things. You have to be growing. You have to be scaling, because if you're not growing, you're dead.
Yeah, and it's really common, I think, as well. Like when you get caught up in the doing, where you're focusing on one thing and your foot comes off the gas on the other. That might be sales, it might be support, it could be a number of different things. Like it's really important to have those benchmarks sort of established so that everything is progressing in unison.
And if you have the benchmarks established, that's a really great point. If you have the benchmarks established, because you're probably touching 4 or 5 different pieces of the business, right? And so when you can look at it like through a matrix, you can go, man, I don't have to spend any time there. Everything's moving and cooking with gas. Let me spend my time here. Let me spend time in marketing. Let me spend time in sales. Let me spend time in operations, because you know where you got those benchmarks out there, and you understand what's working and what's not, and what needs your intention, right? What needs your presence, and what needs your focus on optimization and strategy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, cool.
Yeah. Awesome.
Well, man, this has been great. There's a lot to absorb there. I suppose like actionable points for me would just be for you guys out there, go and get clarity around your vision, and then reverse engineer it. And again, as Mike said, if you guys want to see what, from a numbers perspective on the transparency side of things, how they teach over at CEO Warrior, how to, make that applicable to your business and how you can reverse engineer it, let me know. Wherever you want to let me know, I don't care. If you reply to the email you're going to get, just put it in the Facebook group, send me a direct message, stick it, tie it to a carrier pigeon for all I care, but just let us know.
Do they still exist?
Carrier pigeons?
Yeah,
sure. I think because they're Google pigeons now, aren't they?
They might be. Yeah, you're probably right.
Or Pigeon GPT.
That's it. Yeah, for sure. I love that.
Mike, thanks so much for joining us today. I know you're right in the middle of a workshop, so you probably get back to that, but I really do appreciate the time. It's been a great recording. I'm sure it's going to get lots of great feedback.
Love it.
Listeners and viewers out there, if you've got any questions for Mike or you need anything expanded on, again, let us know. I can't read your mind. Let us know. If you're listening to this and you want to watch it, head across to YouTube. If you're watching this, you want to listen to it, go anywhere you want. Spotify, Apple, iTunes, whatever it is, we're everywhere. Mike, thanks again for your time. I look forward to chatting to you in the future.
I appreciate you, man. Thanks for having me.
See you, mate. Big shout out to Mike from CEO Warrior. Thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your wisdom in this area. Guys, to get notified of upcoming videos and content that we create, hit the subscribe button and get your notifications turned on. And be sure to share this video with someone else. And if you've got any comments or whatever it might be, leave them down below. I'd love to hear them and I will get back to you.